Okay, so we're going to follow on from where we left off last time. Last time we had this kind of really horrible looking but clearly defined areas in our page. And so I think what we're going to do this time is, before we start diving into the data manipulation and everything else, let's clean this design up a little bit and add a couple of extra pages so that we've got a pretty good template for going forward. So I think the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to start with cleaning up the footer of the web page, this red area here. For example, we can remove this copyright line from the content. That can go in the footer along with anything else. So let's go ahead and open up the CSS file for the footer. First of all, we have this horrible red background that we put in just so we could see the area that was being defined. So let's just now go ahead and get rid of that. I have some colors that I've picked here, so I think I'm going to go with, let's try this one. I'm actually going to paste in the value. And so let's take it, let's paste that in, let's see what that does for us. It gives us this nice sort of dark area for the footer. So obviously the next problem that we have is the text now, with the content within the footer, we can't see that. So we need to change that color. And I have another color that I'm going to use here. Instead of just using a straight, boring, plain white text, I'm actually going to put in a slightly off-white text. There we go. So the next thing we need to do is, let's take a look and say, well, footer, normally the best way to go with this, especially if it's going to be something as simple as copyright and some navigation, would be to just center align the content. So we're just going to put in some very straightforward alignment there. And we don't really want this text to be right up against the top edge here and this space at the bottom. So let's manipulate the padding a little bit, right? Let's put in some top padding. And I don't think it needs much. We're just going to do 10 pixels. There we go. It almost sort of centers it. It's not quite centered, and that's not really what I was going for here, but it just gives it some space top and bottom. So that's looking a little bit better. So let's leave that alone for now, and let's turn our attention to this blue area here, this blue section, which is the header section of the website. So let's close out the footer file and let's go and look at the header. Oops, sorry, wrong one. There we go. All right. Now again, we've got this blue. I'm not going to use that blue. I've got something else in mind. Let's start by taking a look at this one here. It should be a complementary color. Alright, it's a little boring, kind of a grey. Let's try something else. I've got a kind of a tan color that I'm going to maybe use here. Alright, that's a little bit more interesting. They complement each other nicely. We've got this darker tone to finish off the bottom of the page. Again, this top color here, this link, this is what it is right now. It's not really working for us. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to say that the default color for text in the header, let's just make it black for now. And we'll see how that works out for us. It's not actually going to change this because it's a link that we've got here right now. And we will come back to that, fix the links up, the colors, probably try and find something complementary across the entire site. So we'll come back to that. Let's turn our attention to the page content here for a little bit. Now, that actually exists in this base file. And as you can see, there's a lot of resets and everything else in here. But one thing to note is we have this body section, and just so you can see what's going on here, what I'm actually going to do is put a color in so you can see what that represents. So we're just going to say that the background color, if I just make it red for right this second, and I'm just going to save it, you can see that that represents basically everything, because it's the body, the main tag of the page. It's everything, not only within the content here, but below the footer and everywhere else. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, let's just take a color here and let's just put this in. See how this looks. Okay, that's the one that's the same as the footer. I have this other one here, which is a slightly lighter, sort of lighter green color. Oh, that is not the way it's going to go. I think what we might do actually, let's use the off-white for now that I used for the text in the footer. So we're not going to have a pure white, it's just going to be a slightly off-white. Okay, there we go. We'll just leave that like that for now. We'll probably revisit that as we work through the design some more. So let's get rid of this base file. Now, let's go back to the header file for a second. Right? When you look at this header file, we actually, because we have these different areas defined now, we can define different colors for the links. So let's take a look at that, right? Let's go in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to say that within the header navigation, the A tag, which is the link tag, okay, let's make that, first of all, let's make sure that we've got the right tag here. We're going to change it to red. Okay, great. So as you can see, it clearly is the one that we're looking at, right? And I have this kind of a light green color. I don't think it's going to stand out too good. Now, what I want actually is a darker version of that. Or actually, maybe what we might try. Let's take a quick look at this one as well. This is another complementary color. That's not too bad, but it doesn't really stand out too much. But that actually might serve as a good color for navigation in the header. We'll see. We're going to leave that alone for now, right? We're not going to use it here on this, sort of the logo site name section. We will change that, but for now we're going to leave this alone for the navigation. So with that in mind, let's just close this out. All right, it's already looking a lot better than when we started. But what I want to do now is I'm actually going to bring up the header section, this header component here, right? And you can see at the moment we've got a link to the title, but I think what we need to do now is we need to have some links for the pages. So I'm actually going to just leave that H1 tag alone, and I'm going to put in a new section, and I'm just going to use it as some div tags for that. Alright, and then we are going to go ahead and put in some links. Actually, I can literally just copy that there. Saves me typing it out. And if I just put in page 1 and save that, you can see we've got this page 1 here. So just while we're laying this out, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to just put a few of these in so I can get a feel for the layout as I'm building the navigation here. So we're just going to add 5 links. Right, boom, boom, like that. Right now, obviously they're not styled very good right now. We're now going to fix that. So what we're going to do is we're going to give them a class, and I'm just going to call this one header navigation. Right, I think that's pretty self-explanatory right there. So let's go over to our header file. Well, actually, you know what? We shouldn't really use that because that exists there. Let's call this header navigation links. There we go. I'll just copy that style, that class name, put it in here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that color from there. I'm just going to remove it from the H1 tag links there. And I'm going to put it in here. Okay, so the header now goes back. Now you'll notice that what you can actually do, if you go like that and you remove the A tag, in fact we should just remove this completely up here because there is nothing in there. We will put something in there for the main title in a second. Okay, so we've got our links styled there with this color. I think the next thing we need to do is we need to look at this section and say, well, I really need some better spacing going on here, right? So I'm actually going to target the header navigation links section independently here. And I'm just going to give it a little bit more of a padding on the top. Just a little bit, just 10 pixels there, just to put in a little bit of separation. There you go. And again, I think that it also should be aligned to the center. And then that way, whatever size the browsing window is, it's just going to feel a little better. I just don't really like the navigation being off to the left there too much, and I feel the center navigation works a little bit better when you're looking at something on mobile as well. Now, something you will notice, and this is because of the content, there is no space between each of these links right here. And that's simply because you can see that, right now that we've got nothing going on here to add any kind of separation. Now, I think what we can do as well is, let's remove this underline because it's so old school and nobody really cares anymore. So what you do is you can say text decoration and you're just going to say none. Right, so we're just going to go none. And when we do that, you're going to see that it removes that line underneath, right? So that's a little better. Now we need some padding around each of the navigation links here, and the main reason for that, not only does it look nice aesthetically in the design, but also for mobile, you don't want to have too many things too small and too close together. And the reason being is because if you think with someone touching that area with their finger, it's very hard to be, you don't have that pixel accuracy. So you really should have some independent sort of dead zone space between each of your clickable items to give it a bit more of an easier target for someone. So to do that, we're just going to add a bit of padding to each of the links, right? So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to go in and just add. Let's start by experimenting with 5 pixels and see what that gives us. Okay, so that's a little better, right? Maybe just a little more. Let's just try that. Okay, I feel that that's better. We can, that's certainly something that's a bit more pleasing to the eye and certainly something that you can use, with mobile with ease. So now let's go back to our links here and let's just change these so that we can now see each of them, right? We're actually going to hook these up to some pages at some point. There we go. So now we've got sort of 5 pages. Of course, when you click on them, they're not really going to do anything. Right now, it's just going to take you back to the same page, which is the main index page. Now, we do have this page 2, of course. So what actually we could do, just to show you, for example, all I need to do here is just do page 2 and save that. And if I got it right, I should be able to click on that and go to page 2, right? All the others will take me back to the home page. But you get the idea, right? So we've got some basic navigation working here. Now with that in mind, let's go ahead and create our other 3 pages. And this is going to be real simple to do because all we have to do really is just take what we've got here, and I'm just going to take all of that, the content in here, and I'm just going to copy that. And I'm just going to create exactly the same for now, and we'll, add some content later on just to identify these pages better. So I'm just going to add another one, which is going to be, page 3 right here. Paste that in. Now, what I'm going to do, of course, I'm going to change these so that I know later on it's not going to get confusing because they've all been accurately named. Right, so 3rd page, I'm going to change this so that we can just prove it's working. So hi from the 3rd page. And then welcome to page 3. And we'll just save that. Now if I go back to my header here, I can just put in page -3. Save that. And if I've got everything correct, there you go. There's the 3rd page, right? 2nd page, 3rd page, and of course the index page. So in reality, what you would do is, it would make more sense to make this one here just say home. Okay, so we've got home, page 2, page 3. Let's go ahead and make page 4 and 5. Same process, just going to quickly put these in. Paste it in. And change that to page 4 actually. think I got something wrong here. Oh, yep, because I saved it, but I did not change that. There we go. So now page 4 should go to page 4. What we'll do, sorry, once I change it in the header here. Hopefully some of you noticed that already. Shows that you're learning from this. Page 4, third, fourth page. Let's remove that extra text. Fourth page. And then, of course, finally, let's do the last page. Same thing. And change that to say 5. And then we really should change the page title here as well. So we'll go back and change those. Remembering from our last mistake, we'll change this to say 5th. Save that. That should be good. Close that out. Add it to the navigation. Alright, click on page 5. There we go. And notice up here it says page 5, right? Because I changed the title. Notice that because I didn't change these ones yet, they all say page 2 still. So let's quickly do that. It's always good to just fix these things up as you notice them, rather than having to remember to go back to them later. And page 4. Alright, so page 4, yep, page 4. Okay, so here, now we've got some basic navigation across the top, a little bit better styling on here. Let's go back into our index page. So I'm just going to close out this. Actually, I'll leave the header one open, that CSS, for a second. We may come back to that. But let's go back to the index page, right? So this link here for going to page 2, we don't need that anymore. Alright, there we go. And then let's go in and look at the footer section. Okay, this is CSS, and then in the JavaScript there, we've got the footer. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take that part there and we'll just say there we go. Okay, great. Now what you're going to notice is, let's close out the footer. You know, this text here, the 2019 Gatsby link, that actually, I think you will find if you go look, is probably in the layout. Yep, here it is here. So we really don't need this footer section in here anymore, right? And we don't need the link. So let's be brave. Let's take that out and save it. There we go. Okay, great. So that's all cleaned up nicely. I think you can see this is starting to look a lot better than when we started. Now, the one thing that's just irritating me right now is that header for the website there. So let's go ahead and fix that, right? Let's go in and we're going to say the header navigation, and it's actually an H1 tag. So we're going to say H1. Firstly, let's change the color, and let's just make sure that it's going to work right here. We'll change it to black. Oh, actually, you know what? It's because we also have a link on here. Let's go in here. Yeah. All right. So it's actually going to do this. There we go. And then again, let's remove the text decoration. Certainly don't want that. So we'll say none. We don't want any. Save it again. Great. Looking us so much better. All right, let's see if we can't center align some of that title right there. So we're going to say header navigation, text align, center. There we go. Okay, so things are looking a little better. But since this is the title for the website, we really want this to stand out a little more, right? So let's put some top padding in here. Let's bring it down just a little bit to also allow for, again, mobile devices where you may not see the very top of the screen there, maybe covered up by a piece of the hardware or something like that. On the iPhone, for example, you have that notch that comes down. So let's just add a 20 pixel spacing to the top there to bring everything down a bit. Great. Okay, actually, you know what? Let's do even more, right? Let's really make this. There we go. Now, don't worry about the height for a second, because what we're going to do is we're going to go in here right now, and I'm going to change this to 150 just to give me some room. There we go. And the navigation really needs to come down a bit now. Okay, the navigation's a little high. So I think what we, as we look at this, what we really want to do is add some padding. We want to make sure there's always padding at the bottom of the header here. So I'm actually just going to put in 20 more pixels. We could just as easily put it in the top of our navigation section. In fact, we have this one here. So I'll tell you what, why don't we just keep things simple? Let's just take that one out of there. Put it in here. Change this to 30. There you go. Okay. And you can see that that just sits down there like that. Now, the other thing here is, don't really like this content. I don't like page content to be buffered up against the header so much. So as we look at this, right, we've got this header navigation section. We also have a problem now in that you'll notice that we have these two classes. Now it's fine because, one naturally inherits from the other, but it's really not a good way to go here. It's not a good practice. And so I think what we're going to do is we're going to take that out of here. We'll put that in there. Let's get rid of this one. It should look exactly identical, and it does. But the beauty is now that we've just got this one class. And in fact, you'll see we've got this padding top of 40 pixels and this overall padding of 10 pixels, right? So let's start by taking that out. All right. And then now I think what we want to do is we actually want to add a margin at the bottom. And the reason being is I want to get some space between the header and the page content. And not much, but let's experiment here a little bit. Let's try 20 pixels. That's not too bad. That feels pretty good. So what I've done here is by default now, all of the content will be pushed down this amount, and we'll have this nice sort of clean gap here, right? So, we've gone through here, and if you're familiar with CSS, there should be nothing new here. If you're not familiar with CSS, you've seen some very basic ways that we can go along and tweak this initial design to make things look a little more pleasant. Okay, it's not, by no means is it finished, but it's certainly now in a workable state. And I think what we need to do now is, the next time we get together on these videos, is we now need to start populating our pages with content. Now that we've got this basic framework with 5 pages, and we can navigate between them. All right, so, I think next time around we're going to start looking at how we get the content into a Gatsby site. If you appreciate this video, then please go ahead and like, subscribe, share it with friends on any of your platforms of choice. It's greatly appreciated. Thank you.